Well, I can't tell you how gratifying that is to finally sweep all of the mess, the dead leaves, the twigs, everything from the ice storm and our most recent snowstorm off of the porch so that I can start cleaning up all of this area and getting it ready for spring. Now, I kind of pride myself on showing you guys what it looks like before it looks pretty. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, so that you don't get discouraged by how awful everything looks right now. Mine looks as awful as yours does. It's just the results of a really hard winter. But also because I want you to see how things transform over time and what I'm going to do to make this pretty and really start to beautify it for spring. Because before you know it, as miserable as this window box looks right now, before too long it is going to be resplendent, I promise you. I think I've got 50 to 75 tulip bulbs planted in here. There's all sorts of things. Sadly, all of this ivy, lamium, some of the spillers that came out of this really suffered in the cold. This is going to have to be cut back hard, but I'm not going to do that now. Today it's the end of February, the last week in February, and I'm probably going to wait until another week or two before I start cutting this off, cleaning up the violas, seeing which ones might need to be replaced, and then giving this a little bit of a fertilization. Now, the other thing I'm going to be assessing is really the situation of all of the boxwood and the evergreens that I've got on the porch to see if they have been damaged or if they can be revitalized with some judicious pruning, if I just need to fertilize them. I'm kind of just doing an overall assessment. So that is the window box. The other thing I'm going to be paying attention to and thinking about as I kind of dress it up for spring is watching how the sun is going to affect the window box now that I have so much more sun than I had in the past, because the ice storm took away lots of my shade. So things that heretofore I haven't been able to grow in this window box, I'll now be able to grow because I'll have more sun. Conversely, things that really thrived in the shade may not be so happy after I realize just how much sun this gets, because this can be a pretty brutal exposure. It faces south. So let me just kind of tell you what I'm going to do to start whipping my porch into shape. Now, all of these beauties that you see, a lot of them are topiaries that are lined up on my front wall, were all kind of hovering down here behind the brick wall, protected against the southern sun and kind of absorbing any kind of residual ambient heat that may have come off of the wall. So things really, despite the fact that we got down to, Stuart, was it like -12? Was that our ultimate low, our record low? These things, for the most part, I'm pretty pleased, did pretty well. So let me kind of tell you what I'm going to do with all of these. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to be moving all of them off of the wall so that I can get ready to really style and stage my big urns that need a little bit of puffing up. One of them needs to be replaced, and this looks a little too utilitarian, I guess, too workspace-ish to have on my front porch. So I just got, actually I didn't just get these, I got them before the snowstorm. These are these beautiful Dragon Prince Cryptomeria. These are new to me, you guys. This is a southern living plant, but notice that they take full sun. Now, one quality that they have that I absolutely love about them, and before I say that, I should say these just really danced through that snowstorm and all of that cold without a problem, and they're still in their pots. So all I did was just kind of protect them here, made sure they went into the winter watered, but look at how beautifully they, I started to say recovered, but they don't even need to recover. They just performed beautifully. So some of these I'm going to be putting out into the landscape, but some of them, like this one, has great topiary potential. And I'm going to do that in a future segment where I turn this into a double ball topiary. So I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to move these. This is kind of my first thing. I'm going to move these to a different location in the back so I can start working on them, planting some of them into pots and just kind of playing with them. Now I also have them in a gallon size. Now here's another project that I just want to kind of give you a heads up, a little forecast about. I love the way the foliage of this has kind of a mossy look to it. It's got very, very tightly spaced, almost like a succulent quality to them. And I'm going to do something that I call button pruning with this. So I've got some little baby ones. I'll put links below for you guys so that you can access the links. And if you like this type of video, if you like me to show you kind of the before and after and how it transitions, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, give me a comment. I'll be happy to answer questions that you have. So all of these are going to be moved to the back. Now I have showed these Blue Point junipers. All of these started out as just little gifts from the garden, you guys. These were volunteers. The birds planted them and I potted them up, and they have turned this kind of dark purpley gray, and they do this during the winter, but they will turn a beautiful gray blue as spring arrives. Look at this one. I love this one that I potted up in a hypertufa container. And all of these, I'll probably put all of these together maybe on my back fireplace in the back, but all of those, they have been enjoying the strong southern sun. They're up here because this gets strong sunlight in the winter time. On the back side of my house that faces north, there's not really any sun, and these, some plants I don't want to go in and out of the sun, but these did just fine, and I'll be moving those to the back. They've had their winter vacation in the south, and now they're going to go fly back north. Okay, another plant that I have here that needs to go into a pretty container. This is a beautiful Arizona cypress, and I'm just starting this little congregation, this little assembly of these blue-gray plants, and these will all be styled together in the back. This has also been on the front porch. It sailed through the winter storm just beautifully. That's going to go to the back porch, and then these, I've got a number of rosemary topiaries, you guys. These have been in my house because while they can handle it down, I have found, to about 26 degrees, they can't handle it any colder than that, and certainly they can't handle minus 12. So all of these I brought into the house, but now they're back out. I've watered them really, really well, and those are going to all move to the back, maybe in the potager. And then over here, I've got one that my friend Monica that provides me with so many of my herbs, and I'll put her website below, but she brought me another beautiful, beautiful rosemary, and you can see it's got topiary potential too. So I will topiary that for you in another segment. Okay, so all of these are going to go to the back. Oh, I've got another couple of waifs right here that are in plastic pots. I've got a lavender. These are just some starts. I'm going to pot those. They've been basking in the sun. All of this stuff is going to be moved to the back, along with, I've got a whole bunch of this lemon lime Nandina, because I'm going to do something really, really fun with them. I think even in some hanging baskets. These also sailed through that winter storm. The interesting thing about southern living plants is we think of them as being bred for the heat. So to me, this has been very instructive to see just how cold tolerant they are and how much cold they can really handle. So I've got a bunch of these. All of these all going to move to the back now so that I have more space to bring some stuff in, and I'll show you what that is momentarily. One more thing. These have been basking in the sun. I went out yesterday and I got some red ruby. I think these are Ruby Perfection cabbages. I'm going to plant these in the front. And then I also got some curly kale. This looks like maybe it's winter boar. They just called it curly kale. And some of this I'm going to be planting in the window box to kind of dance and play along with the other things that are in the window box. So I'm going to move all of this stuff to the back. Now, I was commenting that once again, I am doing all of the work. Stuart the gentleman always feels kind of bad because I'm doing the heavy lifting while he's just filming me, but that's just kind of the shakes. It's how the straws were drawn, right, Stuart? So this planter right here has been here for years, and it has had this same ivy in it for years. The ivy took a hit this winter. Again, now this is probably going to get more sun than it normally does. So this might be the opportunity for me to put a new planter in here. This is just a plastic container that I punched holes in. I set it in this rectangular, large metal standing planter. So this might be the year that I actually change out all of the soil, change out this configuration, and put something else in here. I may also have to change out this topiary. These Green Mountain boxwood topiaries actually survived just fine, with the exception of this one that really got damaged by a major branch, the same one that did a lot of damage to my front door. And I think I'm probably going to take this one out, repot it, give it a good feed, put it in the back in the plant hospital, and put another one in here that's a little bit happier and more presentable for the front yard, if I can find one. If not, what I have done is just rotated it so it puts its best face forward, if you will. So I did that. And you guys are going to ask me about these two tours and where I got them. I got these a million years ago. I want to say at someplace like Hobby Lobby or a nursery. I can't really remember. Okay, so the same thing with this long rectangular pot. This has Asian jasmine, which I think is going to make it. It has been in here for, again, a million years, but this was a record-breaking cold. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to cut this back hard, again, probably not for another couple of weeks. See if it is living. I think it is, or at least some sections of it are. I'll do an assessment on that, remove all of the dead leaves, give it a good feed. And by the way, if you're in any areas that experienced a lot of this weather damage, I was talking to someone at a nursery yesterday at TLC, one of our local nurseries, and she was talking about the importance of giving everything in our landscapes a really good feed this year. So I want to make sure I wanted to make sure that I passed that along to you. Okay, here is another Green Mountain boxwood that's in here. It has an open side on this side. Now, this is just the opposite of the other boxwood where I torqued it so that the best face was forward. In this case, I intentionally rotated it during the winter time and for the early part of the spring so that the bare side is forward, because what I'm going to do is give it a really good feed. I'm going to cut out any dead wood, and I want it to have as much light as possible to renovate, to really be beautiful. Stuart thought that was really funny. To really renovate and refresh itself. So I think it's going to be beautiful as all of this new foliage comes out. But in this case, I intentionally torqued it towards the light as the growing season really begins. I'll give it a 360 turn so that the pretty part, which is full and still in really mint condition, is forward. Okay, now over here, again, I've got this assemblage of plants. I will be doing the same thing with these boxwoods, the ivy. I've got some violas and things in here that actually survived the storm, but they're going to need some cutting back and a really good feed. I will give them that. And then just as I remove, look at my bare wall here. Now, Stuart, see how it's bare and looks a little bit simple elegance, I guess. It will be really gorgeous this spring. But now what I'm also doing is, as I took all of those away, now I am bringing some pots forward. So I had in my garage, I have been forcing in pots. It's not really forcing, I guess, because they're not blooming that much earlier, but I planted lots of tulips, hyacinths, all manner of tulips in pots, and now I'm going to bring them up into the sun. I'm getting them out of the garage, out of the shade, and they've been in there so that they didn't get too much moisture and they didn't really freeze too much over the winter. If there was ever a time that I'm happy that I went to that extra effort, it was this year. But I'm going to be bringing in a lot of these potted bulbs and starting to stage this so that it will slowly evolve and I really get beautified over time. I've got a holly in here. This is an Oakland holly. This is from the Southern Living Plant Collection. Yesterday at TLC, I was talking to someone there, Pam. We were talking about how the hollies in the landscape, in pots, pretty much everywhere they were exposed. Hollies this year really took a hit. And she advised us, so I'm passing it along to you. Don't do anything right now. I know it's hard to put up with some of the brown and the ugliness. It might be kind of a brown spring, but don't do anything prematurely because we really want to give, especially our evergreens, a chance to revive and a chance to come back because they may not be dead. They may just be still stunned, as are we, from all of that cold and snow. Then over here, I've got more ivy in these pots. I'll be training them, assessing whether they are alive or really most sincerely dead. I just will be assessing that and just doing more cleanup. But Stuart, if you would just close by kind of doing a pan that I've got, for the most part, a swept porch now. I was telling Stuart, sweeping my porch is my favorite way to procrastinate when I should be inside working on my book or doing anything else, but especially on a beautiful day like today, which we're so grateful for. My favorite way to procrastinate. So I'm going to get back to it. Thanks, guys.